Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Just finished a long day in the office and just put my son down for bed. So I am back to work. Looking forward to connecting with y'all and answering some questions. What is going on? Again, if you're liking the show here, thumbs up, comments below. Let me know your questions here. Sandra writes in, what is the best low calorie, low sugar alcoholic drink to have? I'm going to Cancun, want to be able to have 2 to 3 drinks a day, like dry Prosecco, vodka. Yeah, so in general, a good dry Prosecco or champagne's going to be excellent. Any type of distilled alcohol, like whether it's a Tito's vodka or like a whiskey or gin, something really clean like that's great. If you're doing a vodka or a dry tequila, you can always mix in some carbonated water, or if you want to do it really cool, you could do like a low sugar kombucha, a little bit of lime in there, and then you're ready to go. Or you can do some carbonated water, half a lime, and you can do just some like alcohol, like a Tito's vodka. That's great. That's like the NorCal Margarita, my Dr. J's Moscow Mule, low sugar ginger kombucha, half a lime squeezed. And typically I'll do a shot or two of Tito's vodka. That works great. And then if I'm going out, I'll typically do like a nice dry champagne, cava, Brut Prosecco, something like that. Cool. And then obviously activated charcoal is great to do it while you're drinking. Every other drink, a nice good mineral water so you don't deplete minerals. And then if you really want extra credit, you can do some NAC, glutathione, or vitamin C afterwards. Hope that helps. Andre writes in, actually, I don't feel total heartburn relief while taking HCl with pepsin and digestive enzymes. Should I increase my digestive enzymes rather than increasing HCl when I want to take them before or after? So it depends. I mean, have you changed your diet? Number one. So if you're saying that HCl hasn't decreased your heartburn, the question is, how much has it? Number one. Number two, have you tweaked or changed your diet? Number two. Number three, how do your stools look? Are you digesting your foods really well? Number three, is there an infection going on? Is there any H. pylori going on? Is there any bacterial overgrowth? If there's infections or inflammation going on, we may have to remove the infection, but we're also going to have to add in some anti-inflammatory nutrients, L-glutamine, DGL licorice, aloe. All the good things are going to be helpful. So we got to follow the 6 R's because there could be other things that are lingering. HCl may not be the lever that slam dunks it, but in the meantime, tap it out. So wherever your baseline is, wherever your burning starts to increase, that's where you would stop. So if you're actually increasing the HCl and it's getting better, but still there, then I would continue to work on increasing the HCl. Make sure it's taken though in the middle of the meal. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that, Bruce. Appreciate it. Let me keep on rolling here. Andre writes in. Okay, yeah, Grace writes in. Hey, Grace, I know we got to check in. Been too busy. I know you messaged me the other day to chat at 6. I am in dad mode at 6, but let's try to connect maybe lunchtime tomorrow or this weekend. Just checking in to see if you'll be covering a specific topic tonight. Tonight, no specific topic, whatever you want. Could someone have an allergy sensitivity to pork? I remember reading about this somewhere. So it's possible. I mean, pork is one of those foods that gets a bad rap because pigs tend to not be treated right. So they tend to eat a lot of junk and a lot of not so good stuff. And of course, there's like biblical references, like, things being kosher, which I think is important. I'd go one step above kosher where things are pasture fed, the quality's good, the hormones are good, just because pigs tend to get the short end of the stick and how they're treated and all that stuff. I think partly because they're pretty obligate in what they'll eat. They'll kind of eat anything, right? So it's really important. Pasture fed pork's really important. If you're having allergies to it, as long as you're digesting your food well, you're infection free, you have enough HCl and enzymes, I'd pull it out, try it again in a month. If it's something you can't get in, just try every month or so trying to add it back. Sometimes you can get it back, sometimes you can't. And also, you've been having some awful seasonal allergies. Is there anything I can recommend for me in particular? I watched your last Q&A on allergies, but wasn't sure if I needed to implement all the recommendations. Also, could you get in a little into what's going on physiologically for me, leaky gut? Thanks. So in general, for allergies, I mean, some people just seasonally, they've had allergies for their whole life. The goal will be to decrease some of those. So first thing is make sure you're flushing out your sinuses. If it's sinus-based allergies, use the Nasoline with the Neti Exler packs to flush it out. Number two, you can use natural antihistamine degranulators. So stinging nettle, bromelain, potassium bicarb, stinging nettle, quercetin. So these are all good compounds. I make one called Allerclear. There are a couple that are out on the market as well. Stinging nettle tea is another one you could do. It's in my product, but you can get it in a tea form. You could also do kidney glandular. Kidney glandular is great because it's very high in DAO enzyme. So those would be the big ones, I think. So make sure you're flushing your nose out. Make sure you have the natural antihistamine on there. Try those two first. And then if you want a little extra credit, then do the kidney glandular and then get the extra DAO from that. Hope that helps, Grace. Let me know if that works. And then regarding leaky gut, you mean you're doing all the right things. So it's hard to say if the gut's the issue or not. People have immune systems that are heightened because they've had issues with their gut for a long time. Anna writes in, I've been taking HCl and not sure how to stop, and digestive enzymes, but seem to always be there. So you mean you can't get off the HCl and enzymes? So first off is make sure you're chewing your food up well. Make sure you're doing a good job with the food. It's good quality food. It's anti-inflammatory. And then my recommendation is just try to not use it when you're eating in a very stress-free, relaxed environment. If you're on the go, if you're in a hurry, if you're stressed, take HCl and enzymes. Try coming down when you're not stressed, when you're in that good parasympathetic state. Grace writes back in, what does pain associated with gastritis typically happen at night? Well, it can typically happen at night because that's where you start to go horizontal, go to sleep. So if you have food sitting in your tummy too long, it's going to kind of raise up to the top part of the stomach, the fundus, and hit the esophagus potentially. So it could be that it's happening and you need like 3 or 4 hours before you go horizontal. So you can get like a wedge pillow so you have more time for that stomach to drain. The Medcline pillows are really nice. They're a little expensive, but they're really nice. So it could just be that component where there's just a little bit of delayed digestion. You can always sip on some bitters like chamomile or gentian or even ginger tea. These are good natural bitters, but you probably need to give yourself more time before you go horizontal. Pink writes in, can gut problems cause hot flashes or is it always hormonal? Well, so the question is, yes, it's definitely hormonal if you have hot flashes. Could your gut be putting stress on your hormones? Yes, because your gut's where 80% of your immune system is. So if your immune system's revved up because of food or because of infections, that's going to stress out your hormones. If there's inflammation going on in the gut, that's going to cause more cortisol. Cortisol will pull from adrenaline. Okay. The more stressed you're at, the more your body will use hormonal substrates to make anti-inflammatory hormones and pull from sex hormones. It's just kind of like the priority in which our body's hardwired, right? We'll always deal with stress and inflammation today versus healing, recovery, and fertility tomorrow. It's kind of just how our bodies are. Because if you don't make it to tomorrow, you don't have to worry about recovery and fertility. Sarah writes in, when are your top 5 herbs that are your most used for killing candida, and do you rotate them? So it depends. Like in my GI Clear 5 line, I'm a big fan of emulsified oil of oregano. Oil of oregano is great for candida because at high doses, it also is antiparasitic. There's research on that helping to kill E. histo. It's very helpful. Number 2, I would say grapefruit seed extracts, excellent. Olive leaf is also really good. Podiarco is really good. You want to get deeper, undecanoic acid is really good. You can even do silver. So I have different formulas, and I'll rotate them in depending on what other co-infections are also there. Yeah, right now where I'm at, it is almost 8:30. Ugly American writes in, what do you think about 10-pass ozone therapy for parasites and bad infections? I mean, I think it could be good. I mean, ozone, 3 molecules of oxygen, so I think it's pretty safe to do. But I mean, I would use the other herbals as well. What bacteria do you find raise histamine? Well, I would say that any type of stress on the gut could create histamine because histamine is released by basophils. Basophils are immune cells. When they go into the bloodstream, when they go into the tissue, they become mast cells and they can release histamine. So any kind of inflammation could cause that. Bruce writes in, Bruce, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Do digestive enzymes have a negative feedback loop? Thank you. So the major feedback loop for hydrochloric acid is gastrin. And there's been studies showing that gastrin does not drop when you take hydrochloric acid. So in other words, you take testosterone, right? Your testicles shrink. That's like the feedback loop, like slowing down. So that is not happening with hydrochloric acid, which is nice. So you can be on hydrochloric acid and enzymes in the long run. I think it's one of the best supplements to be on as an insurance policy. I think if you have good, healthy lifestyle and diet, trying to do it when you're not stressed and you're relaxed and you have time is better. So, but a little bit of, I mean, people have been doing digestive support. People have been using lemon juice and apple cider vinegar and digestive herbs like bitters and chamomile and gentian and ginger for thousands of years. So to think people haven't been using some kind of digestive support, I think isn't really correct. But I think it's totally fine to do it, and the feedback loop does not get disrupted. I appreciate that. Oh yeah, anyone that gives me a super chat in the future, I appreciate tips. I will go right to your question right away in the future. I didn't see how that was highlighted. So you want to go to the top of the list, super chat away. All right, 5-HTP or tryptophan for restoring serotonin levels. Yeah, 5-HTP is obviously great because the hydroxylase enzyme is not going to be inhibited. So with tryptophan, it has to go from tryptophan to 5-HTP, and there's this hydroxylase enzyme that's involved in that step. And it's kind of like a governor. Imagine like on your car, when you're on the highway, you can't go above 65 miles per hour. That's kind of what that hydroxylase enzyme does for 5-HTP or to tryptophan to 5-HTP. So we like 5-HTP with B6. We also want to make sure we are getting to the underlying cause of the stress, of the diet, and of the gut inflammation. So we're absorbing and doing well with that. Dennis writes in, can chewing cocoa leaf lead to addiction? Hard to say. I'm not an expert on that, but I mean, what you're seeing with cocaine obviously is a concentration that's happening there. When you're chewing the leaf, there's fibers, there's other compounds that are there that are going to slow down a lot of that absorption, and you're not going to get the level of potency. So I would say probably okay, but I'm not an expert in that field. Candace writes in, love being here. Thank you. You're totally welcome, Candace. Thank you. Lisa writes in, any healthy alternatives to denture cleaning tablets? Yeah, I would say hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide, and if you want, you can do a hydrogen peroxide baking soda blend. Do a 4-to-1 hydrogen peroxide to baking soda. That's my natural teeth whitener solution too. I got a little canker sore here. I must have got gluten over the weekend, so I'm favoring this side of my mouth a little bit. Apologize. All right, I've had chronic low white blood cell counts for the past 8 years or so. What would be the best and affordable way to determine the root cause of it? So first thing is look at your gut. Why? Because 80% of your immune system's in your gut. Make sure your diet's good. Make sure you're digesting your food. All the protein and the amino acids, they make up your immune cells. Check your gut. That's where infections could be. Make sure you're digesting your food. And then we could always look deeper into various viruses like EBV or CMV as well. But those are the first steps I'd look at. Grace, you're totally welcome. Colin writes in, does SAMe affect methylation cycle for neurotransmitters? Yes, it does. So if you look at the methylation cycle, you have SAMe, you have essentially methionine, you have an intermediary of homocysteine, and then it goes down to cysteine, and then it goes down to glutathione. So, and then SAMe kind of plugs in with this cycle here as well. So you need to metabolize adrenaline, you actually need sulfur amino acids. So the more stressed you are to make and activate your adrenaline, you need sulfur amino acids. So you can deplete your sulfur amino acids. The more you make adrenaline, the more that sulfur amino acid goes to help make that adrenaline. So you can deplete a lot of those precursors that may be used to make glutathione to help you detoxify by being stressed. Gabriel said, my son keeps pooping through the day 4 to 5 times, loose stools, sometimes mucus. He also craves food constantly. He doesn't seem to gain weight. Even with carbs, doctor claims his weight is fine. Well, I mean, first off, look at where he's on the growth curve. You can look at his age, and then you can see where he's at. So as long as he's at a good place on the growth curve, that's good. If he's keeping on pooping throughout the day, I mean, is there any malabsorbed stuff in his stool? Any malabsorbed things in his stool? Now, number 2, I would have him on probiotics. I'd have him on a age-specific probiotic with the Infantis blend in there, and I'd make sure his diet is super clean. And if he's still breastfeeding, I'd make sure his mom doesn't have any crap in her diet that could be passed on to the milk. I start there. You can always get something gentle for his tummy. There's something called gripe water that you can get that has some ginger and some bitters in there. That is helpful as well. Gripe water, that'll soothe his tummy. And then I would, if he can chew, it depends on how old he is, you could get something, you can get a chewable digestive enzyme called Vitalzyme Chewable. That's helpful. Royce White's in. I think this is Jeff writing in here. I'm taking GI Clear 4 and 6, 1 capsule each, slowly tapering up, and 100 milligrams of pregnenolone. This is Jeff. Phone broke. I knew it already. What should I do to be taking things slow, doc? They put me on Lyrica and Tizidine. Oh, man. So keep going up slow on that. Keep going up slow. I know we talked about using the L-theanine. That's very cost effective for your mood, Jeff. Make sure you're doing the L-theanine. Make sure you're having good proteins and fats at every meal. I'd make sure you're doing magnesium as well. These are things that kind of keep you relaxed. Make sure you're getting your protein. If you're stressed, put it all in a crock pot and just do it in soups all day. Do smoothies. Keep it really simple, Jeff. Okay, keep going up slow. And I'd even focus on some fermented foods if you could too. Maybe just go get some sauerkraut or some fermented pickles. Ugly writes in, does oil of oregano and those herbs kill off bacteria as well? Yeah, they will kill off some good. The question is, compared to what? That's always the question. Like Grant Cardone, one of my mentors, he always says, it's expensive. Expensive compared to what? So with oil of oregano, does it kill bad bacteria? Yeah. Or good bacteria? Yeah. But compared to what? In regards to antibiotics, it's not comparable, but there's still be some bad stuff or good stuff that is killed as well. Jeff writes in, lots of headaches and pains in the lymphs under the neck. Make sure you are doing ginger tea. You can also do some burdock root tea as well. And you could even do some red root or red clover tea to support your lymph. Don't be killing stuff so much where your lymph's all stressed. You can feel free and do a rebound or two, Jeff. Get a trampoline and just bounce on it for 5 minutes. That's fine too. J. Pat writes in, hey, Jessica, my mother-in-law gets fast heart rate after eating. Could it be her PPIs causing this? What are the possible causes? Oh, great question. So that was the old way of figuring out if you had a food allergy is, did your heart rate go up after you eat? So it could be a sign of a food allergen. So I'd make sure her food's clean. That'd be the first thing I would do, Jess. Agnes writes in, my daughter runs out of breath during hockey practice or when running. Can it be anything else other than exercise-induced asthma? So depending on the age of your daughter, first thing I look at is so many girls are anemic. They have low iron, whether it's because they're bleeding a lot in their menstruation or they're not getting enough good quality red meat. So the first thing I would look at is iron. Make sure iron levels are good. Ferritin above 30, iron saturation above 25, iron serum in the 50s. You can add some liver to her diet, some red meat 3 or 4 times a week. May have to get tested as well. If you want to be on the upper end, you can always add in a little bit of carnitine and CoQ10 to help with energy and endurance as well. Ugly writes in, 26-year-old male, testosterone 283, and my doctor wants me to take 10% cream to help me get energy back. Is it okay? I mean, first off, man, you're too young to be jumping on that. My testosterone dropped recently, but I noticed I can double my testosterone in a few days with just resistance training. So make sure your sleep's good, make sure your food's good, do a little bit of resistance training for a couple of weeks and then go back and then get a window into where your levels are at. If that levels you off, then I would be doing the lifestyle things over hormones, especially at your age. Way too young. Maybe you want to do a little bit of DHEA. That may be okay, but I would stay away from the testosterone. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it. Sean writes in, can small amounts of starchy veggies, sweet potato, be sabotaging the killing phase of the Candida protocol? No, it will help it because that'll help bait some of those critters out and act like cheese on a mousetrap. So that's totally fine. Girl writes in, I'd like to know how to restore regular bowel movements for my wife, age 47. So if there's motility issues, you can do high dose magnesium citrate or oxy powder, taper it up and get her moving her bowels. But you got to get to the root cause. You got to follow the 6 R's, remove the bad foods, replace the enzymes and acids, repair the gut lining, repair the hormones, remove the infections, repopulate, reinoculate probiotics, retest. So you got to go through that sequence. Jessica writes in, thank you. Hey, thanks, Jess. Appreciate it. Michael writes in, my wife has low ACTH, low cortisol at 1 in the morning. Is it a pituitary? How can you increase ACTH? So yeah, there's definitely some hypopituitary stuff going on. So what is happening with that? How did she get to that place? I need a lot more information, but we may need to do some herbs to figure out to get that ACTH stimulated and supported, but I want to know how we got here. So there's more questions I need, Michael, to give you more support. El Guerrero writes in, my 1-year-old put a piece of cat poop in her while at her grandmother's house. It's indoor, outdoor cat, so I can't help but wonder if parasites were in it and caused her to have gut issues. Did she have any health issues afterwards? What do you think? Anything happened there? First thing I would do is, depending on if you're a 1-year-old, I would just do some probiotics right now. Did anything happen after that? I'd probably just do probiotics. You could, if you want to do, trying to think, 1 year old, that's tough. I'd probably just focus on probiotics right now if nothing else happened beyond that, okay? If something else happened, then we can talk after. Jeff writes in, my dad's been having gallbladder attacks and had to get a test. They found a stone. What should he do? They don't have to take out his gallbladder, still smokes and drinks coffee. So First thing is Dr. Jonathan Wright has a great article. I did a video on this a couple of years back on the common gallbladder foods. See that video? It's things like pork and onions and those kind of things. HCl enzymes and bile salts. HCl enzymes and bile salts cut the fat down just a little bit, so his gallbladder is not having to contract, and it's not like squeezing a porcupine, so to speak. All right, so get that going first and let me know. Yeah, 1 cortisol in the morning, Michael, is very low, very low. Kat writes in low sodium after a seizure. Okay, what's your question though? What's your question? All right, I'm going to head over to Facebook. Sorry, guys, the writing's a little bit short here. Well, man, I got a lot of questions. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my browser here so I can read the question off my 30-inch monitor versus my 4-inch phone. That way I don't blow a blood vessel in my eye here. Give me 1 sec. Squinting, that is. All right, all right. All right, a couple of questions while we're going here. Hi, I'm Joe Jamal. Used to have a rash, easily allergy hive. When don't get clothes changed, is my IBS more than 3 years caused by any food bloated? Intention headache has dropped business. Okay. All right, guys, help me out. Got to write proper English because you make me sound silly when I read your messages back. So I'm going to translate beyond the English. So Jamal says he has some allergies. If he doesn't change his clothes, he has rashes. 3 years, he's been bloated. He's had a tension headache. He's stressed. He's in business school, had to drop out. So you got to get the diet and lifestyle component dialed in first. See how much that cleans things up. Some people, they get a lot of mileage out of simple things. Some people are more complex, and we have to go deeper. So my recommendation is always kind of get the best bang for your buck. So let's try that first, and then come back to me and let me know what happens next. All right, there I am. Perfect. I got my Facebook up here. All right, Mia already writes in, Dr. J, I've noticed that my parotid glands are painful as of late. Any reasoning behind this? There could be some Sjogren's happening. Is there any autoimmune stuff in your family, Mia? Go on an autoimmune template. Lucinda writes in, what do you think about hair sensitivity analysis? Reliable? It says I'm sensitive to all foods I eat regularly. No, not reliable at all for your hair. Definitely not. Marilyn writes in, my husband's feet are always cold and he won't allow me to put on the AC. What could be wrong with him? Low thyroid. There could be low thyroid going on, Marlene. Dr. J, this is Amelia. I'm working with you right now. Yes. How you doing, Amelia? We started a hormone protocol first despite gut infections. Is there a reason that you choose to begin hormones via gut infections like blasto? Yeah, because number one, dealing with the gut already creates inflammation. And a lot of people are already fatigued and they already have inability to regulate inflammation and generate energy. So when we go after the gut, it can actually create more inflammation. So we're trying to, one, get your energy up. Two, we're trying to improve your inflammation, anti-inflammatory reserve so you can deal with more stress and be able to power through. And also having good anti-inflammatory capacity will help with your leaky gut. Inflammation will drive more gut permeability. If we keep inflammation on track, that will help. Does that make sense? It's one of the biggest mistakes practitioners make when they go after and start killing people's infections off the bat, because they can feel icky. They can have poor compliance. They can drop out of care. They may not do as well. They may suffer more. So I want people to feel as good as possible and be able to motor through it and be compliant. Great. Awesome. Couple other questions here. Jeff writes in, thanks so much for the help. I just don't want to have that stupid surgery from not using simple functional. I totally agree, Jeff. I've saved dozens of gallbladders in my career. Dozens. It does not have to be done. It is a silly surgery for most people. If you let it go so far and then it gets massively infected, and, you know, obviously we got to be careful of sepsis, but I mean, that's the extreme end of it. So if you can get on top of this, no problem. Kat Aaron writes in, the antidiuretic and diuretic from the pituitary gland not leveling sodium. Okay. So do you have diabetes insipidus? Is that what's going on there? So what's going on with that? So I would make sure that you're getting enough minerals. So I mean, ADH is the hormone from the pituitary that helps hold on to sodium. So if you have low sodium levels, then you're probably peeing them out. So I would probably make sure you're doing a better job helping to get extra sodium and minerals on board there. You may need I think it's Flucatef. It's the bioidentical aldosterone hormone that you can take supplementally. Well, it's actually a drug. You could also do the natural form licorice, which tends to mimic that. But you may need to see a conventional doc for that too, because that sounds like there could be some medical stuff on the allopathic side going on. Dennis writes in, I take 3,000 milligrams of DHEA and 300 milligrams of EPA. Is there a risk of bleeding? I'm not worried about that at all. So you're at 3 grams of DHEA. I think you mean 3,000 of EPA as well, because that's a really low EPA dose. So you're probably at 6,000. I mean, that's on the higher side. Just make sure there's enough. Make sure it's good quality fish oil, and make sure you have some extra antioxidants on board too. IKO writes in, took stool tests. Everything looked good except high zonulin 350 with possible food allergies. Went on a carnivore diet for 2 months with coffee only. Got retested. No infections or parasites. But zonulin went up. Any thoughts? Yeah, I don't put a ton of stock in zonulin. It's nice to look at it to correlate. But why it went up, I'm not sure. Are you eating the same meat all the time? Could be food allergy related that's kind of causing it. So I'd need a little bit more information. How are you feeling though? Are symptoms getting better? How did the gut look besides zonulin? I mean, any infections, any inflammation? How's your IgA looking? It sounds like you had no infection, which is good. Cat Aaron wrote in, what is green stool coming from and going? No bacteria found. Green stools is fast transit time. So it sounds like you may have faster transit time. So you have to get to the root cause of why that may be. Could be other infections going on beside bacteria. Lewis writes in, my man's feet with just socks on will sweat and then cold. Why does this continue to happen? I'm not sure. So why does he sweat? Why does he get cold? I would want to look at his hormones, especially his thyroid, especially when the extremities are getting cold. I always go to the thyroid. What's the safest way to treat a tension headache besides painkillers? Is IBS worsen it? Ibuprofen taking regularly, is it harm to IBS sufferer? Yeah, it is, because it's going to make your gut leaky. It's going to increase your chance of an ulcer for sure. Number one thing to do with a tension headache, I mean, I would always go to magnesium and ginger first. If you need an ibuprofen acutely, fine, but get to the root cause. Blood sugar is going to be a big one. Gluten and aspartame and MSG and foodstuffs. And then you can do other nutrients like the magnesium and the ginger. All right, guys, hope that is super helpful. I got to jump off the call here, and I'm going to see you guys on Friday. Maybe tomorrow I'll jump in here. Hope you guys have a phenomenal night. Good chatting with y'all, and take care. Thanks, guys. Bye.